Hello, this is Coffee Chug, and today I'm here to teach you some tips, some pointers, some guidance to get you started on your American Revolution debate project for 8th grade social studies. At the end of this, you obviously can ask your teachers as well as myself any questions or thoughts or clarification that you need. If you're watching this, you're either watching again based on the lesson or you're absent checking this out to kind of get caught up. And so this is not an end all be all, but hopefully just a way to expose you to some new thoughts and ideas.
I used to hate pooping in public. You know the feeling. Nothing.
I think it's already starting. Let's watch how things work. No, let's watch Ben 10. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock. Dynamite against flow rock. Mountain. Nothing to break mountain. Only volcano. Oh, if I break you, you're broken forever. Water put out the dynamite. Lava can turn water into clouds. I won. Clouds can rain on our lava. Force field. All your rain going up on top of a force field. Hammer. Ham. How that to break force field? See? What means? It just made a little tiny hole. Rock, paper, scissors, lightning. Battery, I took out the lightning. Rock, faster battery. Water. Boat. Humongous water! Humongous wave! Humongous lightning! Humongous water everywhere! I'm never gonna fall! Which show we gonna watch? Together. How about Ben 10? Ultimate Ben 10. Yeah, I like Ultimate Ben 10. I love Ultimate Ben 10. Let's do it! Yeah! What do you want to eat? Salmon. I want to eat at Chick-fil-A because my favorite dessert is Chickies. Fine. Whoever wins gets you picked. Rock, paper, scissors, hurricane. Rock, paper, Chickies.
Wait, so Sam has to.
So, the reason that we just watched that video is to get you thinking about debate and argument. And you can see that's something that we do every single day of our lives, whether it's a very low scale, two kids arguing over rock, paper, scissors, and how to make it better, or things that we have with our friends, whether we think so and so likes me, or this person's cute, or what should I wear, or what food should we eat, to the arguments and debates that we have with our parents in the workplace. It doesn't really matter. Our whole entire life and premise and everything we do is based upon persuasion, debating, and arguing. And so this is a skill that's not only important for 8th grade social studies, it's important for your entire life. If you can pick up some ways to be more effective at it and do it the right way, you could find yourself really moving up ahead through the ranks or winning a lot of arguments and debates in your life. And so we're going to start with the debate of the masses. What we're going to be debating is homework is a waste of time. So we're going to have kind of a live, right now, right here debate. And so I'm going to take two students from the class. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're not going to be able to see that because I'm recording this from my nerd cave. But we're going to pick two students, and they're going to be doing a spar debate. And I'm going to give them time. They're each going to have 90 seconds of speaking each to argue the affirmative and the opposition to that statement of homework is a waste of time. And so while I'm going through the rest of this, they're going to be plotting out their debate, and they're going to be receiving a handout. And if you're interested in that, I can share that with you, and they're going to debate that at the end of class. But we're going to move on from that because you're not here and they're not selected. We've already talked about we argue and debate every single day of our life, sometimes even with ourselves. So this morning, I was debating whether I really wanted to run, and I know that I needed to get my lazy butt out of bed and moving to achieve the goals that I want. But I had this constant debate. Well, it's too cold. I overslept 10 minutes. And I'm having this arguing, and hopefully the better side wins out, and I get myself out the front door and moving. My daughter debates whether she should go jump in this puddle. This is a picture from last year in which you can see that water is frozen. In the summertime, she had no problem jumping in, being hands-on. But in this case, hopefully the debate wears out that she decides not to jump, because if not, she's going to flip back, and it's not going to be a good result. We've got students that are debating the merits of their coding program or their project and what works best. What should they do? Should they go this angle? Should they go that angle? Those are things that you do in school all day long, which is the beauty of group work, which is what you love oh so much. And I know you're nodding your head saying, yes, I love group work, because I know every student does. As teachers, we debate whether our projects are worthwhile, and we have things going on now where students can have a say to debate whether this project that we are wanting to do is going to be something that's going to be a positive impact on their learning. So it's not only things that you're doing as students, but as educators, we debate every decision we make, whether it's going to be a good moment in your learning. My son, debating whether or not this idea was a well thought out plan. Obviously, he learned it wasn't the best choice. As a kid, going through middle school and junior high in the great state of Indiana, I remember what it's like to debate and argue my parents every single day of my life. And I'm sure that they are glad that I've moved beyond that stage, and I know that you're in that moment and you do that yourself right now. I remember it, and had I had some of these tips and tricks, I might have been a little bit more successful. So here are some tips on debate that I want you to think about, things that are going to help you as you start to prepare for the American Revolution debate, that the American Revolution was justified. So this is the cheesy and pathetic teacher slide. 4 key steps. You have to research the topic. You've been doing that in your class already. You've been spending weeks studying, preparing, learning about the American Revolution, how it evolved, how we got to that point, and all the different parties and insights along the way. You need to make sure that you're familiar with the format, which is the point of this presentation and the handouts and everything else that we're doing in class. Observing the protocols, making sure that you follow the guidelines. You don't want to default yourself and find yourself speaking under the time or over the time, or not following the methods at hand to conduct a productive debate. And then, like every teacher says, hopefully you're having fun collaborating and debating, which I think you will, but I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. So let's take a look at this video. This is a well-crafted video. It's going to give you some key ideas. You may want to jot down a few thoughts. In the class, we would follow up and have a discussion over it. For the sake of this, you're just going to watch, and you can kind of talk among yourself, literally.
Started my Camry. Found an old guitar. Tracked down the previous owner. Hit the jackpot.
One bowl, let's go place it.
Really, from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, you're always debating in some capacity.
The founders of this country understood that debate was vital for a peaceful society. I think that democracy is unrecognizable without debate.
Never back down from a duel with an opponent. Always clash swords with someone when you can. Engaging debate at any chance you can get is good.
So the history of debate is really interesting. You can tie it back to the ancient Greeks, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, people like that who had a tradition of public argument. But in terms of competitive debate, like debating to win, that's a very British thing. It comes out of the public schools and the universities, particularly of the 19th century. today, there are many different formats of debate. These can range from policy debate to Lincoln Douglas debate, from public forum debate to parliamentary debate, from congressional debate to impromptu debate. All of them have in common the idea of research, being articulate, and being able to convince a neutral third party that you're right about something. The first thing that you learn when you join a debate team is how to structure an argument. An argument has three basic parts: a claim, a warrant, and an impact. A claim is what it is that you're trying to prove in the first place. The warrant is the evidence for why that is true, and the impact is why it matters in the first place. One thing that really differentiates a school debate from a presidential debate is something called the burden of rejoinder. So what that means is, if your opponent brings something up, you need to respond to it, because if you don't respond to it, it's true. So in other words, if I tell you the sky is purple, if you don't reply to it, the sky, for the intents of the debate, is purple.
I think one of the most difficult things with new debaters is this concept we call switch side debating.
In other words, in one round you're going to affirm a resolution. You're going to say, I agree with this resolution, and the next round you're going to negate it. You're going to say, I disagree with this resolution. That strikes people as really strange, because usually when you think about debating, you think that you're upholding a side that is something you believe in. That's actually not the case in competitive debate.
Where's the fun in defending something that you already believe? That's easy. It's hard to defend something that you don't believe in, and a lot of people really struggle with it.
Debate has a lot in common with the martial arts, especially judo. The philosophy of judo and the martial arts is, if someone takes a punch at you, you don't punch back. You use the energy from that punch to flip them on their back and incapacitate them. So when you're attacking your opponent, conceding arguments gives you that energy you need to flip the opponent on their back. So you might concede some arguments and then say, but then there's one argument here that it just doesn't make much sense to me, and I want to attack that.
Listening in a debate is just as important as speaking in a debate. If you don't know what your opponent is saying, you're not going to be able to respond to their arguments.
Most people aren't listening. Most people are waiting for their turn to make their arguments. That's a very different operation than listening. To listen very carefully, because everything they say, they have to be held accountable for. The second most important thing, I think, is, in a short amount of time, conveying a lot of things that you want to say.
You're taught how to think 10 times faster than you normally would. You have so many different arguments to deal with, and you have to basically come up with a 4 to 8 minute speech within a minute.
An important skill that debaters learn quickly is to read the judge. Debaters learn to identify certain things about judges either by judging a book by its cover or by finding out a little bit about who that judge is before the debate round. Politicians do this all the time. When you hear politicians adopt slightly different accents or slightly different approaches, they're doing what high school debaters do. They're adapting.
Debate can definitely translate into real-world skills very well. Whether you're on a job interview, whether you're just trying to have a conversation with someone one-on-one, you're hitting on people in bars. I mean, just the ability to talk to people is something that very few people have, and everybody covets.
A great skill that debaters get is the ability to sort of read whether a source is credible or not. If you turn on the television or you go on the internet, opinion is sort of often presented as fact or as news.
So we really need to teach people to say, hey, how do I find the other side here? How is this argument working me over? And how can I resist that?
I've been forced to take on so many different positions and so many different perspectives that personally I don't really believe in. And now when I meet a person and they have, a point of view that originally I would have thought, wow, this person's completely, out of their mind, and I think about it and I can say, well, I've had to defend that position, so I know where they're coming from. And that trait is such a useful trait in society to have if we want to be able to get along with people whose opinions we don't share. We need to be able to understand where they're coming from and to be able to walk a mile in their shoes. Debate allows you to do that.
So, a couple key ideas here. That video hits on a lot of key concepts. I think the two that really stand out to me is listening, and two, if you don't argue something that is brought up to the debate, that it stands as true. I've operated in the global youth debates, the Racism Project, the Flat Class, for many, many years now, both on the advisory panel and also as a teacher with many students going through. And here are the key things that I think are monumental before you actually record or do your debate. Here are the 5 items outside of the key things in that video, and hopefully you took down some key notes. 1 is pacing. You need to know who your speakers are, and you need to make sure that if you have someone that speaks very quickly, like I do, that you teach them to slow down, and you make sure your word count in your script is going to give them enough words to meet the 5 to 7 minute time frame. You need to make sure that you actually hit the time frame. It's amazing how many people think they have a lot of information and they fall way short, or vice versa. They have so much that they actually have to cram a lot in at the end, and it just sounds discombobulated. You want to come across clear, concise, and well prepared. And the way we're doing this with the asynchronous debate using VoiceThread, you have time to prepare, to be ready, so make sure you're ready. Speaking tone is also monumental. We're not be able to see your face. It's not live. It's not in person. So we can't see your gestures. We can't see your body language or your eye contact. So the key phrases, what are your key words that you want to drive home time and time again that stick in the mind of the judges when they're listening? Make sure that you enunciate clearly, you hit the key words, and you really bring the major ideas out in the tone of your voice. Make sure you have a quality structure. Use the format. Have a good script. Have your paragraphs. Have your key ideas. Bold, italicized things in your paper so you know what things to drive home, and make sure that it actually flows smoothly. You don't want it disjointed where you're jumping all over the place. It doesn't work, and you're going to find yourself on the losing end of the debate. And the last, practice before you record and judge yourself. Record it, have your team then listen to it and assess it. If there's parts that you don't like or things you don't think are very strong, you need to make sure you fix it before the other team hears it. Know your team. You need to know the strengths of your team. Who's your organizer? Who's your script writer? Who's your main researcher? Everybody needs to contribute, but you need to have key jobs. The teams that have done well in the past, for me, we have someone that works really well with the written language, so they're kind of in charge of the script. Other people can chime in and help, but they're the go-to person on that. Another person is really good at organizing the notes and the information and citing sources, and so that person focuses on that to make sure it's cleaned up. You have to know who your strong speakers are. It's going to be important that you place them in the right placement of this debate. There is no right or wrong in terms of your organization. It comes down to knowing your team, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, and creating a battle plan so you're prepared to go. So you need to talk to each other before you jump into the research to make sure you're on the same page. We are a Google Docs school, so use Google Docs to your benefit. Get your folders created, get your documents created. You should have notes and research for the affirmative, notes and things created for the opposition. You need to know where both sides are coming from. So use your docs, get your folders, get several documents, spreadsheets, slides, whatever you want to use, have it ready to go. Research more than Google. Make sure you have valid websites, not just opinionated websites. I know it seems like this time period is forever ago. It's a few hundred years ago. There's a lot of opinions out there, so make sure that you have quality data. Look for things that are beyond your textbook. Look for things that are beyond just Google, so you can bring in quality arguments that are going to be hard to debate. 1776 is the cap on your data. You can't go beyond that time period. Make sure you're citing all your work, so if there's any question from the other team, other students or teachers or educators, you can show them where you got your information. And then make sure that information is quality. Make sure you're not debating inaccurate data, because that will backfire on you real fast. Here's our structure. Here's how it's going to flow. You have this in the handout, but we start with the affirmative. They're proving that statement true. You have to prove that the American Revolution was justified. So you pre-written and practice speech, we've already talked about that. You have to have proof. 2 contentions is what they want. So 2 key points that prove that the American Revolution was justified. You also need to make sure you explain and define the statement that the American Revolution was justified. What does that mean? You need to clearly define that. So what was the American Revolution? What does justified mean? And why are you making that statement true or proving that it's true? And then you go into your 2 major points. Then you can see the arrows. It goes to negative. The first opposition. You're going through your arguments, your major counter arguments against what the proposition team has argued, and then your 2 points. So you've got to have your opening remarks, but you also have to have a bit of rebuttal in there as well. So you need to plan properly. How much time are you going to leave for that rebuttal? So when you listen, you can craft your notes and information. This is where it's important that you are aware of what you think the affirmative side is going to bring to the table, so you're not just shooting darts in the darkness. Come prepared. Have your research well crafted. Then it shifts down to the second proposition speaker. This is kind of hard to have pre-planned. You can have a basic script in terms of your new contentions to support why that side's true, but you're going to have to listen to what the negative side has to bring to the table and be prepared to get your notes ready to go. You're only going to have one class period to listen, prepare, and record. So you need to have a structure, a flow, something ready to go so that you sound intelligent. Then it goes to second opposition, the same structure. Arguing against the two new contentions brought, as well as anything from the first speakers, as well as bringing out any new information that you need to bring across. By the end of the second speakers, no new information can be brought to the debate. So anything that you want out has to be brought out by these second speakers. Then, the opposition does their final presentation, the opposition rebuttal. You summarize everything. It's basically a persuasive summary explaining how you have shown that that statement's not true. The affirmative has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that statement's true. You have to provide an opportunity where there could be some validity that it's not true. So it's just like a court case. Otherwise, it gets thrown out. So give the arguments, state your case. You cannot bring any new information into it, so plan accordingly. And then it goes to the affirmative rebuttal piece, showing without a reasonable doubt that this statement is true, that it was justified. So giving your summary, closing it all together, bringing it to a close, very, very powerful time. And you're limited in your time. You don't get 5 to 7 minutes. You get less than that. So make sure that you're well-crafted, concise, and to the point, and you really bring the hammer down. This is just another slide. You can pause it if you want. I'm not going to go through it because I just went through it all. This is just another way of looking at it. The key here that's not on the other one is we're going to use the ARE method, argument, reasoning, and evidence. And so we're going to talk about that here next. Okay, so your A is your assertion or your argument. Okay, this is simply the statement that something is so. I believe the American Revolution is justified. I believe the American Revolution is not justified. Then you have to give your reason. Why do you think that? And then your evidence. What's the proof of why your reason justifies the assertion? So it's a three-part process. And you can see here, I like this. This is why I chose to put this in here. If you just say, for example, the death penalty is justified, that's just an assertion. There's no proof. There's no reason. There's nothing to that. But if you add your reason, death penalty is justified because it reduces crime. There's your reason of why you believe that. And then the last piece, to make it high quality, the death penalty is justified because it reduces crime. Credible university studies conducted across the nation strongly point to this effect. There's your evidence. And in the course of a speech, you would then go in and you would dive into that evidence to explain it. Now you have provided support. Many times in our life when we do debates and arguing, we don't get to this point. We just say, homework sucks. I don't like this. I don't like that. Well, why? Well, I don't know. You got to have your reasons and you got to have your proof. And when you can have that, you now have a well-crafted argument. So, your assertion is the statement. The reason is the because part, and then the evidence is the support. And you can look through this and see how they've broken this down in terms of boxing. You have your assertion right here. Boxing is attended. Here's why they believe that. And then here's the research, the data, the stats to confirm all this. This is very, very important in your debate that you have these elements. You need to have them or you're not going to have a chance. Now, on the flip side, when you go to rebuttal, so someone is given these assertions with reason and evidence, you need to counteract those arguments. So you need to restate. Step one, they say. What is it they say? Bananas are better than oranges because they contain more potassium. Then you would say that bananas are better than oranges, but oranges are actually better than bananas because they contain more vitamin C. So there's your but part, and there's your because. Okay? But that's not true. I think the opposite. And here's why. And then you conclude that. Therefore, this is why you should believe my side. So why is it that they're wrong, and why is it that you're right? And you can see the examples there. So follow this. When you do your rebuttals, here's what the other team said. But that's not right because whatever your reasons are, therefore you should think our way with your conclusion. You need to follow this 4-step rebuttal process. I'm going to say it again. I've already said it a couple times. Listening is the key to debating. I know you have to be able to speak articulately and be strong in your stance and your arguments, but if you don't listen, you're not going to hear where they're coming from. So many times when people are talking, we don't listen. We are very, very poor as a society of listening to people. When someone else is talking, we usually are sitting there crafting what we want to say, and we're just waiting for the dead air so we can go in and talk. But listen to what they're saying. Take your notes. I'm going to give you a document and show you how to do that. I'll give you another video and another handout aside from this, so you can take your notes in the column format, so you can keep track of your points of view. So then with your team, you can plan your arguments accordingly. Here are just some other key things. Have a lot of your information ready to go. You should have research on both sides of the argument and be ready to use those as needed. So at this point, if you were in class, we would bring the two students up to do the debate so we could kind of talk about it and analyze it. Okay? But from there, we're not going to do that now because we don't have that. It's important that you listen so that you're able to understand, and so then you can act upon a proper rebuttal to sound intelligent in the arguing. So we're going to bring these guys up. Homework is a waste of time. Okay? But now what I want to do is show you an actual debate. And I want you to take a look at and take note of what techniques do these people use, what techniques should they have used, and in the handout, using the rubric, if you don't have the handout, you can check the notes in the website to find it. Okay, what points would you give to both sides? So let's go ahead and watch this debate and see how you would score it and how you would analyze it.
Bruce Braley, to me, puts politics way ahead of the needs for veterans. Missing all those meetings is a direct insult to any veteran.
Tell Congressman Braley, reform and fix the VA.
Listen to me. Like I do this all the time, and if I go out at the house with the door, Matthew has his toys, and then Matthew has all his toys.
Okay, but I have to yell at you guys.
Linda, listen, Linda. Listen.
Okay, what?
Like everything they do at this house, you can't trust everything at Grandma's house.
Okay.
Okay, then what?
Then you're not listening to me.
Then you're not listening to me.
I asked you not to do something.
Linda, but listen to me. Look at, if we do something, if you get that bird thing off, you're gonna break it.
Okay, but I'm letting you know
But
that you cannot.
Linda, lick it.
You're not listening to me.
Linda,
Listen to me now. Listen to me now.
Listen to me.
No, you're not listening. I said no cupcakes, and you try to get cupcakes, and you try to ask Grandma.
Linda,
Didn't you?
Linda, lick it. If we do something right out this, if we get close, you can't even get them. You're gonna burn your butt.
What's gonna burn your butt?
No.
You and Kevin don't listen, so I have to give both of you guys pop-pows in your butt.
But Linda, Grandpa's gonna give you peppers in your butt.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
I have to. You don't want me to hit Kevin, or you don't want me to spank you?
No.
Why?
Because anybody wants to spank me.
Then I have to spank Kevin.
But he's my little box.
He's your little pop-ups, but he doesn't listen.
But Linda, honey, look at this. Right now, they can't do anything if we can't get everything out of the wall. If we're gonna break everything down.
I'm not breaking anything down. I'm just letting you know
Linda,
you cannot have cupcakes for dinner.
Linda, like this thing, I never belong to you. Anything, you can't get anything and anything.
I'm done arguing with you.
I'm not arguing with you.
You need to listen to the things that I say because I'm the mom and I'm the
Linda,
adult.
listen to me. All the time they get them this thing, but they can't
I'm done arguing with you.
Linda, I'm done arguing with you.
Okay, so you can see in that debate, hopefully you got a little humor out of that, but there's a lot of key things there. One, they're both pretty adamant on their arguments, but they don't really have a lot of quality evidence. They're not really listening. There's a lot of other things in there that we would talk about in the class, but that just gives you an example. I got some links of resources for actually some quality debates if you are interested. So here are some places to go to get some more information on debates, either 3 quality websites. You can find plenty of examples here. I hope you found this helpful. I know it's not the same as being in the class and being real time and asking questions and connecting with people, but in case you were able to make it, this is it for you. Let us know if you have questions, thoughts, ideas. If you have something even better or other things that I've left out that need to be added, please let me know. This is not an end-all be-all. This is far from perfect. This is just the point of where key ideas we want to get across to you. And so we can always learn from each other and add more, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. All right, have a great day. Best of luck in your debate. Get your team ready, get organized, be ready to rock and roll so we can kick some major booty when it's time to actually debate.